If you want to support a sad writer like me yelling into the void, consider joining my YouTube memberships or Patreon. Or just liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Let's keep the void slightly warmer. It hits without a warning, the way existential dread usually does, quietly halfway through a perfectly formatted sentence. You're writing, as usual, not for the money or the fame or literary prowess, but for the cheap, momentary relief of getting something out. And that's when the faults creep in. You've been doing this for years. Not creating, coping. The moment calcifies. It's like a sudden realization that you've been using a broken umbrella your whole life, and only now noticing that you're soaked to the bone. The articles you always sneer at come rushing back. Why creative geniuses are depressed. The neuroscience of melancholia and art. Writers Be Sad, a TikTok compilation. You click out of them in disgust because they sound like they're talking about you. Or in this case, me. There's been a lot of realization over the last few months, and this is part of it, and it's a very weird place to be. Here's your origin story. And my origin story too. If anyone asking, they're not asking, but I thought I would just put this in here. You didn't start writing to express yourself. You started writing because if you didn't, your head would feel like it would collapse in on itself like a dying star. So let's play cliché bingo. Let's do it. Let's just sit here and feel attacked together. Oversensitivity. You once cried because a stranger's dog looked lonely. Self-loathing disguised as observation? Hi, hello. Romanticizing pain as if it earns you death. Yes, but tastefully, I hope. Social awkwardness compensated by being air quotes profound online. Tragically, yes. Periods of inexplicable joy followed by weeks of feeling like you're rotting from the inside out. Checkmate. So, how many of those bingo cards did we get? You always thought the tortured artist stereotype was offensive because it flattened people. It stripped them of anything. But it turns out it's offensive because it fits. You are no longer layered and unknowable. You're just a sad guy with a MacBook Pro and an inflated sense of metaphor. Yes. Those moments of self-realization when you can start dissecting your own brain are oddly painful and... yes. This isn't the type of sadness that gets Instagram quotes or poetic monologues. It's that quiet kind. The kind that turns into a series of internal monologues and shameful snacking at 2 o'clock in the morning. Or not eating at all, in my case. But even that has a performance to it. You don't cry at things, you cry at the idea of things. You start thinking in scenes. You narrate your depression like it's auditioning for an indie film. You write phrases in your head like, he smiles, but the sadness stays lodged in his chest like wet cement. Ugh. And you immediately want to punch yourself in the face as hard as you can. You are not self-aware enough to stop doing it. But you're self-aware enough to know how ridiculous it all is. You want to believe writing is healing, but often it feels more like self-dissection. You pin your insides to a page and call it catharsis, but really it's just bloodletting ritual with better punctuation. Writing doesn't solve anything, it just lets you stare at the problem in a font of your choice. You pick apart moments like loose threads, you revisit your pain into clean narrative arcs. You invent meaning when it was just chaos. It feels noble. It feels compulsive, and maybe, if you're honest, it's sometimes just a clever way to stay stuck without looking at it. Because words are also bondage, but they're also a knife. It's the problem written by someone who's never spent a night sobbing into their Google Doc. These articles that come my way, that I see countless times sent to me in the writers' forums, they always have the same smug tone. The fake compassion of someone who's fascinated by trauma as long as it's formatted. Articles with titles like Why Writers Can't Be Happy or Creativity and Mental Illness. The Double-Edged Sword. It quotes studies, it cites articles and people. It's made depression sound like a superpower. You wanted to scream, but I'm not some tragic muse with ink-stained hands. I'm trying not to die without sounding clever about it. But what really stings wasn't the tone, it was the accuracy. That's being honest. This is the hardest part to admit. And this is about you and me and anyone who finds meaning in this video. You want to be understood, but you're designed for sadness. Just to be, well, open enough that no one can quite touch it. You keep people at arm's length and then mourn loneliness. You crave validation but recoil when you get it. You say you don't want attention, but look at you. Posting confessions like they're essays and hoping for applause masters empathy. Look at me doing the same thing in this video. There's a line between authenticity and performance, and you're dancing on it, and you've been doing that for many years. So here we are again. You're writing this on a bad night instead of screaming into a pillow. You're shaping your darkness into paragraphs, hoping it feels less messy that way. You edit, you overthink it, and maybe even post it. And someone will say, this really spoke to me, and you smile, but not really, because if someone relates to this, it means they're hurting too. Still, you keep going, keep coping, keep turning your pain into punchlines and poise, because yes, you and me are a cliché, but at least we're clichés that can write.